The ground gave way beneath Lyra's feet before she could even scream. One moment she was walking through dappled sunlight, listening to Tessa's cheerful chatter about wildflowers, and the next she was falling into absolute darkness. Her body slammed against cold earth, knocking the breath from her lungs. Above her, 3 faces appeared at the pit's edge, backlit by morning sun. Their expressions transforming from false concern into something far more terrible. "Such a shame," Tessa said, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "The most beautiful girl in Suntar lost in the forest." Marin's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "I wonder if anyone will even look for her." "Not until after the festival, surely," Elna added, already turning away. "Come, sisters. We have a prince to impress." Lyra's voice finally found itself. "Wait. Please. Why are you doing this?" But leaves and branches were already being dragged over the opening, blotting out the light, sealing her tomb. Their laughter faded into the distance, leaving only the sound of her own ragged breathing and the thundering of her terrified heart. 3 days earlier, everything had been different. Lyra had been gathering water from the village well when the royal messenger's horse thundered into Saunter's central square. The man's voice rang out across the golden fields that surrounded their humble farming village, announcing that Prince Aldrich of Lurven would host a grand festival of dance. Every maiden in the kingdom was invited. The prince sought a bride, and the festival would be his choosing ground. Excitement rippled through the village like wind through wheat. Young women squealed and clutched each other's hands, already imagining themselves in silk gowns, spinning in the prince's arms. But Lyra felt a different sensation, a tightening in her chest that she couldn't quite name. She caught Tessa watching her from across the square, and the hatred in those eyes was unmistakable. That evening, as Lyra helped her mother Nayla weave cloth by candlelight, she spoke her fears aloud. "Mother, I don't want to go to the festival. The other girls already resent me enough. This will only make things worse." Nayla's weathered hands paused in their work. She studied her daughter's face, beautiful even in shadow, and sighed deeply. "Lyra, my darling child, you cannot make yourself smaller to ease others' envy. The moon does not hide from night's darkness. Your heart is pure, and that shines brighter than any jewel could. You must go. If not for yourself, then because it is your right as much as anyone else's." "But Tessa and the others have always been cruel," Nayla finished firmly. "Not every smile is kind, daughter. Walk wisely, but walk proudly." Lyra had tried to follow that advice. She kept to herself, avoided the marketplace when she could, and found peace by the river where she could sing without judgment. But the village was small, and jealousy had long roots. For years, whispers had followed her. "She thinks she's better than us. She must use charms to make men stare like that. That face is a curse on our village." The morning they were supposed to leave for the festival, Lyra had been genuinely shocked when Tessa, Marin, and Elna appeared at her door, all smiles and sweetness. "Lyra." Tessa had embraced her like a sister. "We've been terrible to you, truly terrible. Can you forgive us? We thought perhaps we could all travel together. Strength in numbers, you know." Marin had nodded eagerly. "We're so excited. And honestly, you know more about the forest paths than anyone. We'd feel safer with you leading the way." Hope had bloomed in Lyra's chest, fragile as spring's first flower. Perhaps she'd been wrong about them. Perhaps jealousy could be overcome. She turned to her mother with pleading eyes, and Nayla, though her expression remained troubled, had finally nodded. "Take the eastern road," Nayla had warned. "It's longer but safer." "Oh, we know a shortcut through the forest," Elna had interjected quickly. "We'll save ours. Don't worry, Mistress Nayla. We'll guard your daughter as if she were our own sister." How carefully they had laid their trap. How thoroughly Lyra had walked into it. Now, in the darkness of the pit, Lyra's tears mixed with dirt on her face. Her ankle throbbed where she'd twisted it in the fall. The walls were too sheer to climb, too smooth to grip. She called for help until her voice went hoarse, until the sun moved across the sky and evening shadows swallowed what little light filtered through the branches above. Night fell like a curtain, absolute and suffocating. "Please," she whispered to the darkness, to God, to anyone who might hear. "Please don't let me die here." Meanwhile, in the palace of Lurven, Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow light across marble floors. The grand festival had begun, and dozens of maidens in their finest gowns glided through elaborate dances. The musicians played beautifully, the wine flowed freely, and the court applauded each performance with enthusiasm. But Prince Aldrich felt nothing. He sat on his throne, watching face after painted face blur together, feeling the weight of his father's expectations pressing down on his shoulders. Beautiful women, certainly. Graceful, undoubtedly. But where was the spark? Where was the genuine light he'd hoped to find? Tessa, Maren, and Elna danced with particular vigor, their movements practiced and precise. They'd scrubbed away every trace of the forest, every hint of their crime. They smiled brilliantly, laughed at the prince's comments, and told themselves that everything had worked out perfectly. Lyra was gone. The competition was eliminated. One of them would surely catch the prince's eye now. But guilt has a way of showing itself, no matter how deeply buried. Elna's hands trembled slightly as she curtsied. Maren's laughter was too loud, too bright. And Tessa's smile never quite reached her eyes. "Where is the girl from Suntar?" an elderly courtier asked. "The one they call Lyra? I heard she had a face blessed by dawn itself." The three girls exchanged the briefest of glances. "Oh, she must have decided not to come," Tessa said lightly. "Perhaps she wasn't feeling well." In the forest, Lyra had long since stopped crying. Tears were useless, she'd discovered. Fear was useless. She'd tried everything, climbing, shouting, even attempting to dig handholds in the pit's walls with her bare fingers. Nothing worked. Her hands were bleeding now, her dress torn, her body trembling with exhaustion and cold. But she was still alive. And as long as she was alive, hope remained. She began to sing. Not loudly, for her throat was raw, but softly, the old songs her mother had taught her. Songs about endurance, about dawn following darkness, about seeds that grew even through stone. The singing calmed her racing heart, gave her something to focus on besides terror. It also saved her life. Ronan, a hunter from a neighboring village, had been tracking a wounded deer through the forest when he heard it. A voice like water over stones, weak but pure. He'd dismissed it at first as wind in the trees, but as he moved closer, the melody became unmistakable. Someone was singing. Someone who sounded hurt and afraid. He followed the sound to a pile of branches that looked deliberately placed. His experienced eye caught the irregularity immediately. "Hello," he called out. "Is someone there?" "Here. I'm here. Please, please help me." Lyra's voice cracked with desperate relief. Ronan tore away the branches, peered into the darkness below, and his heart twisted at what he saw. A young woman, covered in dirt and blood, looking up at him with enormous, terrified eyes. "Hold on," he commanded, already fashioning a rope from his climbing gear. "I'm coming down." The rescue was difficult. Lyra could barely stand on her injured ankle, and the pit was deeper than Ronan had initially thought. But he was strong and determined, and within minutes he'd hauled her up into blessed sunlight. She collapsed against him, sobbing with relief. "Who did this to you?" he asked, offering her water from his flask. Between shaking breaths, Lyra told him everything. The jealousy, the false friendship, the trap. Ronan's jaw tightened with anger. "The festival," he said. "They left you here to die so they could dance before the prince." "I just want to go home," Lyra whispered. "I just want my mother." "No." Ronan's voice was firm but kind. "You're going to that palace. You're going to tell everyone what happened. And justice will be served." Lyra wanted to protest, but when she tried to stand, her injured ankle gave way. Ronan caught her and, without asking permission, lifted her into his arms. "I'll carry you if I must. But you're going to face them, and they're going to answer for this." The palace guards tried to stop them at first. A muddy hunter carrying a bedraggled girl didn't fit the festival's elegant aesthetic. But Ronan's voice rang with such authority that they hesitated. And in that hesitation, Prince Aldrich himself appeared, curious about the commotion. He took one look at Lyra, dirty, bleeding, but with a dignity that even suffering couldn't diminish, and everything changed. "Bring her inside," he commanded. Now. The whispers spread through the hall like wildfire. The music stopped. Dancers froze mid-step. Tessa, Maren, and Elna felt ice flood their veins as Lyra was carried into the grand hall. As every eye turned toward her, as the prince himself descended from his throne. "What happened to you?" Prince Aldrich asked gently, kneeling beside where Ronan had carefully set her down. And Lyra, exhausted and in pain but no longer afraid, told the truth. Every word of it. She didn't embellish or exaggerate. She simply told what had been done to her, and watched as the faces of her tormentors went from red to white to gray. "These are serious accusations," the prince's father, the king, said gravely. He turned to the three girls. "What do you have to say?" "She's lying," Tessa shrieked, but her voice was shrill with panic. "She's just jealous because we're prettier, because the prince would never." "Your Majesty," an old woman from Suntar stepped forward from the crowd. She'd been in the palace kitchens, having come to help with the festival preparations. "I heard these three girls. Before they left the village, I heard them in the barn, planning it. They said Lyra would never see the prince's face. I thought they were just being spiteful. I didn't know." One by one, others came forward. Village folk who'd heard whispers, who'd seen cruelty, who'd been too afraid to speak before but now found courage. The evidence was overwhelming. The king's judgment was swift and absolute. Banishment. For treachery, for attempted murder, for hearts poisoned by envy. You are exiled from this kingdom and forbidden to return on pain of imprisonment. As guards led the screaming, protesting girls away, Lyra surprised everyone by standing, limping forward despite the pain. "Wait," she said quietly. The king paused. Prince Aldrich watched her with wonder in his eyes. "Let mercy be their lesson," Lyra said, her voice stronger now. "For envy grows only in hearts that forget their own light. Perhaps exile will teach them what kindness could not." Prince Aldrich knelt before her then, not as a prince before a subject, but as a man before someone extraordinary. "A heart like yours," he said softly, "belongs beside mine. If you'll have me." Lyra looked at him, really looked. Not at his crown or his palace, but at the genuine admiration and respect in his eyes. She thought of her mother's words about the moon not hiding from darkness. She thought about how she'd survived the pit, how she'd kept singing even when hope seemed lost. "Yes," she said simply. Weeks later, when Lyra stood on the palace balcony in her wedding gown, looking out over the kingdom that now included her beloved Suntar in the distance, she thought about that dark pit, how close she'd come to being buried by others' jealousy, how she'd been pulled back into light. She touched the small scar on her palm where she'd scraped it trying to climb out, and she smiled. Some scars were worth bearing. They reminded you that you'd survived. That darkness, no matter how deep, could never bury a pure heart's light. In the valley below, flowers bloomed in abundance. Even in the forest, life flourished. And somewhere, three exiled girls learned that the shadows they'd tried to cast on others had only darkened their own paths. From a pit of envy had risen a bloom of grace. And the story of Lyra of Suntar became a tale mothers told daughters for generations. That true beauty lives not in the face, but in the heart that refuses to let cruelty make it cruel in return.